Hi, welcome to the Shelly Studio. Today I am working on my artist trading cards for June. This one is day 20 and using the prompts I gave myself. The first one is draw dashes and lines, and I'm just using a Posca and I just started by doing one curve and figured I would just follow that till I filled the page. And I use dots and lines instead of dashes, but you know, it works. It's just a prompt to get the juices flowing, right? That's what prompts are for. It's no hard rules. Besides, I'm giving myself these prompts, so I'm not taking it from anywhere else. And the next prompt was to add scraps. And I have this piece of paper that I had cleaned off. Well, it's deli paper. I'd cleaned off paint on, and it had like the shadow of one of those hands. I'm sorry, I can't think of it, but it wasn't like perfect. It was kind of weird shaped. And I vaguely remember doing that, but I can't remember how it got that impression. I don't think I have a stencil like that, but maybe I do. Anyway, so I figured I would just glue that on there, and I decided to keep going with scraps and sort of layer some tissue paper. So I have a napkin, and then I have some tissue with dots, and I figured I would just layer them over the top and just see what happens. And hoping that it's thin enough that we can see everything through it. And I think you do, kinda, sorta. I do actually take a bit of that napkin and stick it to the top because I felt like it needed to be all have that tissue and napkin sort of effect. And you don't see it here, but there was 2 layers in that napkin, so I peel off a layer. As I'm doing that, I can see it, and I think I edited it because I'm just fiddling, but oh, there we go. See, I noticed there was that second layer, so I just took it off and then put a little bit more of the matte medium on, and yeah, so it's a little bit more see-through. Okay, once it's dry, I trimmed it up, and the next prompt is add pastel or gel crayon. And so I pulled out my praying gel crayons and figured I would just outline that hand so it stands out a little bit more. So after I put that napkin down, it kind of disappeared a little bit. Added the fingers. I guess the big one's the thumb and the little one's the pinky. I don't know. I wanted to emphasize that a little bit more, so I pulled out my food ball and I'm just drawing around it. And food ball's right on everything, but apparently this was just a bit too much for it. So I had to keep scribbling it off to the side to get it to move. And then add a little bit of marker. I just kept going. I just really wanted that to stand out, apparently. And white paint pen for little highlights. There we go. And just a random word. Outline that, and the word is again. Just a real quick, simple card with lots of interesting texture. Alright, so on to day 21, and the first prompt is use something from recycling, and I just literally grabbed into my recycle box and pulled out this packaging, and I just separated it from the cardboard backing so that it would be thinner and glue on better. I also pulled out this security envelope, and I'm going to glue that on to cover up that little white piece. Which my backing is also from recycling, so there's 3 things. Look at me, how much I'm recycling. It's amazing how much garbage I generate considering I use a lot of recycling. I really do. Glue the flour on. I try to rub that down really good to make sure I've got all the air bubbles out. So the next part is add fabric. I just had this strip of fabric. I made a footstool once and just covered it. And I thought maybe the number would be interesting. So I'd have that, and then I have the brown that I thought could be like, I don't know, background for it. I wasn't sure I was liking it too much. I guess it covers up too much of the flower. And then I cut out another word. Le, I don't know. Is that what that says? Fabric is just such a hard thing, especially when I stuck that flower on there, like right dead center. And so now I have to work around it. Alright, so I pulled out my Fabri-Tac and I'm just going to glue this down. Right there. And I was thinking, at one point I was thinking I would take, next prompt. Add black marker or pen, so I go around the flower with the food ball, which doesn't really work on this slick material. Nothing does, but we make it work. Force it. There we go. And I decide the flower is so pale that I want to do some shading. So I'm just taking matte medium and just going over the flower itself. And then once that's dry, I'll take my Stabilo to it and create a little bit of shading so you can see it a little bit better, hopefully. Just around all the different components in that flower. There, I think it stands out a little bit better now. I just decided to add some paint. Probably to get the flower to stand out even more from the background. Paint reacted differently on that security envelope than on the glossy packaging. So here's where I had started mentioning before. I was thinking I would put that brown all the way around like a border, and then changed my mind and decided just to go down along one side instead of framing out the whole thing. So there it is, day 21. So day 22, another one that says, use something from recycling. So I have this cardboard, and I thought I would try to stamp it onto the background, but didn't have a lot of paint. But it gave it a little bit of texture. So the next one was add a photo or collage. And I had this little clipping I had taken out of Trader Joe's ad a long time ago, but it was funny, so I had kept it. So time to use it. And the comment from the ad was like, "Joe, you've gone plaid." I thought it was funny. So the next part was add a quote. So I decided to use the word, the quote, "Be genuine." Figured be yourself, be genuine. And yeah, trying to cut that smaller so that it looks like it's supposed to be that way. And then I decided to go around it to try and help those giraffes show up a little bit better. And I think I go over it quite a few times. Because they sure feel like they're blending in. So, and then I go around with some paint and try to create a border. I should not paint with my fingers. I don't do that good a job. Here I get out a darker marker and just fill in the spots, and then I go over his stripes. They're giraffe's stripes. Now they really stand out. Alright, and that was day 22. And now on to day 23. And the first prompt is use dimensional paint. And so I pull out my dimensional paint again, and this time I decide, and I say again as if you've watched my other videos. I've had the dimensional paint prompt a couple of times. But this time I just decided to scrape it onto the background, and then I'll just scribble into it just to create some texture. And then the next prompt is glue something down. So I did leave that overnight, and once it dried, I just take some tissue paper that I have stamped on, and I'm going to glue it down with some matte medium. I do let that dry and then trim it. And the next prompt was add fabric. I'm so tired of regular fabric. So I remembered I had this cheesecloth, so I decided to glue down some cheesecloth. And I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do it. And so I put some glue down, and then I just kind of make it look like ruffles. And I was committed to it for a while. Like, I glue that down, I add extra glue, and then, you know, I'm tacking it everywhere. But before it dries, I decide I don't like it. I didn't really like it from the beginning. And I pull it off. Then I decide just to take that piece and use matte medium and glue it down that way. And this one actually ends up, I think this was my favorite ATC for the whole month. Yeah, oops, that was a mistake. Oh, goodness. So I have some kind of, it's like a glitter paint, and I thought I would thin it down, and maybe it would have looked okay dry, but it just didn't look very brown, so I grabbed some color shift paint. It's the black that shifts to bronze, and added that to it. And we're just staining the card with it. And then I take some of that straight and just rub it around the edges. And that is called, it's Recollections Glitter Paint in Chocolate. And it's really old and separated, but it worked. And so now I'm just adding a word. The word is treasure. And I'm putting some of that brown around on the word and around the sides of the butterfly. And I'm just going to glue that down and glue the word down. Really simple, and that's it. So there are the next 4 trading cards, and I hope you liked that. If you did, leave me a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Thank you all for watching.